Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and give it 1 minute for people to join us. So if you just hang out, we will get started shortly. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you for joining us for today's webinar. It's called Search to Sold, Marketing Strategies for Dentists, brought to you by Podium and Great Dental Websites. My name is Annalise Cavisto, and I'll be moderating this conversation. Joining us for the webinar is Jeff Gladnick, founder and CEO of Great Dental Websites, and Josh Comey, Sales Director of Healthcare at Podium. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to all registrants' inboxes within the next 24 hours. If you're having trouble with the audio, try refreshing your browser and make sure that the volume on your computer is turned up. At any point during this webinar, please submit any questions you may have in the Q&A box on the bottom of your screen. We will get as many as we can get throughout the webinar, but if we can't get to it live, we'll follow up with you after. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to start off by asking you both why websites are still important when there are so many things that are new on the internet, like Google My Business, social media, community groups. So we'll go ahead and get started with you, Jeff. Like, are websites still relevant, and why are they important?
Yeah, this comes up almost every year, and a lot of online profiles, Google, Facebook, start to become other avenues that patients can find you. But there's still a lot of compelling consumer data. Bright Local has a study they put out every year, and I think it's like 33%. It's the highest ranked activity for after people will read reviews, which Podium can help you achieve. The next thing they do is they go to your website. And conceptually, you can understand this. If you're considering a multi-$1,000, implant case or Invisalign, this is not just like a casual decision where, it's like, okay, let's just buy the bricks from there. You really care about the person who's putting it in, and you want to learn about their expertise. And while Google My Business grows every year in its complexity and the information that it offers, it still doesn't give you the amount of online real estate to really put forward your case to a new patient for why they should pick you. And so as long as that remains, you're still going to need a website.
And Josh, yeah. I know you guys have a slightly different relationship with websites. Can you go into how Podium uses them and why it's important for you guys to have access to websites too?
For sure. So yeah, websites, in my opinion, are not going away anytime soon. It's been very critical for the businesses we work with. So Podium, we have a web chat that goes on websites for our customers, and it's amazing. The customers that have implemented that have seen a huge increase in lead flow coming to their business. And so Jeff had kind of mentioned this, but people, when they're searching online, they do a search for dentist near me, orthodontist near me, practice near me. They're probably getting to your Google page initially. The next click for them is your website. So on your Google My Business page, it has your website listed there. And it's a very easy and quick transition for someone to click on that and then see your brand, see your image. And hopefully, if you have a good site, that prompts them to reach out to your business, right? And so, yeah, websites have been very critical for Podium in that sense, in the fact that reviews are important. Having a good Google My Business page is important. Having a way for people to get to your website, yes, that's critical. But the second piece to that equation is if your site doesn't convert leads, if it doesn't look good, if it doesn't really show or demonstrate who you are as a business, it's going to be hard to get those patients to take that next step.
And you mentioned when people search, they'll see your Google My Business, and that's a change from 5-10 years ago where people only saw websites. Are there other trends that you guys are seeing and changes in how users interact with search engines?
Yeah, I feel like it's something that's constantly changing. So I've been at Podium now for close to 4 years, and it's even since I've started, I've seen a huge change in the way that people are searching. And Google is also constantly making updates and tweaks to these things. So example of that would be the Google My Business page. Google, they've put a lot of emphasis, and they continue to put more and more emphasis on your recency of reviews, quantity of reviews, how that page looks. We can talk through some NAP stuff as well, but making sure your Google My Business page is updated, all that stuff really plays into how you're going to pull up as an office. And those trends have changed. The emphasis that Google has put on that has changed significantly over the last few years. I like to use a phrase of like your front door, and your front door for an office or a business or practice nowadays, it really is not your physical front door like it may have been in the past. I don't know of too many people that just show up to a dental office, knock on the door, come in, or, and set up an appointment that way. 99%,
especially not now.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Especially not now, right? So with COVID, it's even more critical to have this. But yeah, your website, your Google My Business page, those are your front doors. That's your opportunity to really stand out online.
I guess I would add to that, there's a much greater emphasis placed on mobile search. And we still see plenty of desktop searching going on, people at work, and if they're making a big purchasing decision, it may not be as quickly as casual as just searching on your phone and picking the closest near you, but they may also search on their phone. We see that quite a bit. So having a great experience on all devices and having a responsive website is important. Making sure you've done and checked all the technical boxes, and Josh alluded to some of them, and Google My Business is probably the most important part of that, to give yourself the best chance at showing up in search results. But beyond and you'd mentioned, Josh, some of the primary search terms, the most popular things people are looking for, dentist near me or orthodontist near me, and that's totally correct. And we see the same data. That's the majority will be the most popular searches for your practice. But there's also lots of little tiny wins that start to add up to pretty big numbers, veneers in your city, or veneers in your zip code, or Invisalign. And all these different little service searches or variations on those searches for particular services and procedures that you may provide may be easier to win, and may win you a patient that has greater intent. It's already done the research, and they know that they want a dental implant. That's the solution that they've already determined is best for them to fix their smile, and now they're just looking for a provider. And the Google My Business profile doesn't always come up for all those different variations. So having a lot of different content on your site and making sure that all those different pages are tuned to win some of those what we will call long tail search results for those individual service and procedures is almost just as important in aggregate as it is to win for the dentist near me search, which is obviously very important.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those too, those are your high revenue, those are the procedures that are bringing in a good amount of revenue to the practice. And so definitely important to be on some of those other searches as well, right?
Yeah.
And I know there's a big push to make sure that you have varied reviews for each of those services, especially when you're searching for something that you're going to drop a lot of money on, like implants, or even more optional things like those veneers. What are some ways that you can get reviews, especially specifically for those services that you really want to promote?
I can chime in here. Yeah. And so a critical piece for this, in my opinion, is when you have that procedure, when you have a happy patient, someone that comes in, have a good process in place to ask for feedback and for that review. My experience has been with business just in general is if you can get them to do it real time while they're in the office, whether they're in the chair, they're checking out, get them to do some sort of feedback or review for you real time. That's when it's top of mind for them, right? And they're going to, majority of people I talk to in the dental space are pretty satisfied with their experiences. I know there's sometimes a fear of getting negative feedback or negative reviews, but I can say overall in the dental space, it's been the percentages, the star ratings are very high overall, right? So I feel like majority of patients come out pretty satisfied. But yes, asking for that real time is very helpful to get those reviews. And then also having a good and quick and easy way to do that, whether that's texting them a link or having a quick way of getting them to the right spot to leave a review. Because a lot of times that's what's holding people up from leaving you a review or feedback online, is they may have never left reviews online. They may not be familiar with that process. And so simplifying that for them, making it so they can literally go in and click 1 or 2 clicks, leave you that feedback, is going to really help increase the percentage of people leaving you reviews.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is, Podium has a good solution for this. We like it because it's automated. And I see some practices that just say, well, we're just going to manually send out reviews. It's like, no, you're going to forget. You're going to lose momentum. The front desk is going to get distracted. You'll forget. Just get an automated system. So I would make sure that the system is automated. And it's nice if they have a few options. Google is the most important one to get reviews on. If you got to pick one, pick Google. But if you also have options for Facebook or Yelp that you can get people to leave reviews on, I think that Josh should probably know better. I think that doesn't violate Yelp's terms of service as long as you're not gating them first. Some variety is good too, because there are people in certain regions of the country that will favor one review platform over another, or like Yelp, I know is used heavily in California.
Yeah, definitely certain regions. There's other sites that are more important than others. And then also, I think something sometimes people overlook is provider focused pages like Health Grades and Vitals and those types of sites. If someone is referred to you, let's say, and I know this happens quite often, is that they go into their general dentist, they get referred for maybe an implant or something, right? A lot of times they're referred to that doctor's name. So when they're going online, they're doing their research, their Health Grades page is going to pull up. Patients are going to pay attention to those reviews as well. So there are, what I would say is focus on the core sites, but also don't ignore some of the healthcare specific, the dental specific sites as well out there.
Yeah, agree.
And with that, Jeff, I think this one's more up your alley. With those Vitals and those Health Grades, I know that we see that plays into SEO and making sure that sites can show up on those search engines. What are some tips you have? And then Josh, I'm sure you have some additional tips there to make sure that those pages are completed and helping the practice to become more visible.
Josh touched on it earlier. He gave you a little hint with the NAP, the name, address, and phone number. And those are the 3 primary signals that Google is using to identify consistency in all these different online profiles that you have on Facebook, Health Grades, Vitals, Google My Business, Yelp, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so working with some company to make sure there's a couple dozen of these profiles that are relevant, at least that's our belief, to make sure that the name, address, and phone number are identical on those things. And little things that you might think are irrelevant can become a factor. Like if you're on floor 2 or suite 200, or just write second floor if you don't write anything. And you can think about it from Google's perspective. This is a complicated task if you're in like a metropolitan area like New York City and you have a very common name like John Smith. You might be in a skyscraper that's 80 stories tall with like 3 or 4 other John Smiths who are doctors or dentists. And so they see another Dr. John Smith come in, and is this a 4th John Smith, or is this John Smith who just didn't get his name, address, and phone number correct? They're not really sure. And so this starts to lead to kind of a dilution of your score that's adding up to how well Google shows you when people are looking for a dentist in your area. So it's really crucial that you get the NAP address. I'll let Josh expand on that too. The other thing I would mention is for the long tail searches that we talked about before, all those individual services and procedures, it's just important that you have an individual page that's primarily geared towards attracting searches for a given service like Invisalign, and that it has enough content. Usually you want 500 words. We'd like you to have reviews or testimonials embedded in there, videos of you, the dentist, talking about those things will help increase your conversion rate. It'll help increase time on page. It'll give Google more meat to sink its teeth into when it's trying to find a relevant search result when someone's looking for Invisalign in your city. And there's some tuning you can do to some of the technical SEO settings, the title, the meta description, that'll help make it even easier for Google to associate your page with the user's intent to find an Invisalign provider.
No, that's great. Jeff, to tag on to like the NAP aspect as well, and in no way am I a NAP expert, but what we have seen is businesses that have different listings, it can affect drastically how you pull up. your Google My Business pages right. So if, like Jeff mentioned, if your suite numbers are wrong, just take a minute today and I would go through and check some of your main sites, your core sites like Google, Facebook, and make sure that they all align with how you've put that on there. Also that they align with your website, with what shows up on your website, right? So that's a quick and easy thing you can do, but that will help how you pull up. The last thing you want is to have Google looking at you as like 3 separate businesses, because the address is different on each of those. So that's a quick thing I think can really help. I feel I say this somewhat jokingly, but it's, man, if you could go back and name your business Best Dentist Near Chicago, if you're in Chicago, like that really helps. No, but Google does look for words like that too, right? So there are certain things you can't control. You can't switch the name of your business. You can't switch some of those aspects, your address, because proximity is a big piece for Google too. But if you can focus on what you can control, recency of reviews, quantity of reviews, NAP, those are all factors that will help increase how you rank. And then also your website. I know Jeff has touched on a couple of things you could do there, right? But making sure that you're not just pulling up under general dental searches, but under what are some of the things you're specializing in? Are you pulling up when people are searching for those, for implants, right? Are you pulling up in those searches? That's also an important piece to it.
And you guys have both mentioned now updating like the website and your profiles and all that. How often should you be going back and making updates to that? Like with Google My Business versus your website, should this be something you're working on all the time? Is it something that doesn't matter as long as your website's performing well right now? What's the tips and the tricks with that? Jeff, if you want to get started on that one.
So I think you should add some, like once a month, I would say is a good cadence for Google My Business. There's a couple things that you can add on a regular basis. Because I mean, you might be thinking like, well, how often do you really want me to update my address there, Jeff? And not often, at least unless you're moving. And that sounds weird if it's more than once a month. But there are posts that you can put up. You should be responding to reviews from time to time. You can add photos. So there's a variety of different things, and I think once a month is probably enough activity in responding to reviews when they come in. Josh, I think I would defer to his advice for how to respond to negative reviews when they come, or if you should, and what the balance of step is. But those are kind of the things to look for and the opportunities to comment on a regular basis on Google My Business.
Yeah, and Josh, let's talk about those negative reviews, because those always are not fun to get.
For sure. And I would say a lot of practices don't respond fast enough to those because they don't have an easy way to do it. A lot of times there's one login, the doctor has the login, and so their staff doesn't have the ability to go in and help respond to some of those responses, or maybe it's the tech person in the office has the login, so the doctor can't go in and respond, right? The nice thing with Podium is we can link your Google My Business page into Podium so you can respond directly from there. And you can have multiple people in and have access to respond to reviews. So if you have 2 or 3 people in the office you want to dedicate to responding, all that is very easy to do within the platform. And that's what we've set out to really help with, is responding to reviews is very important. It's critical in my opinion. And the faster you can do it, the better it's going to look. When I'm looking for a product and I see a company that's someone's got in, they've posted a negative review, but there's a quick response back to that with, hey, sorry you had this experience. Reach out to us here. We'd love to see what we can do to help you. And that builds confidence and trust for me in that company, right? That hey, look, no one's perfect. If they got it wrong, or if the patient feels like you got it wrong, the fact they're willing to get on top of that quick and respond is really helpful. And so that would be my feedback is you don't want to leave those negative reviews unresponded to for too long.
And I want to hear your take on this too, Josh, but be careful about revealing anything that's going to violate HIPAA in reviews. So I've seen some disasters where the dentist just starts going into like the clinical aspects of the case. And it's like, no, you didn't brush for 3 years, and then it starts blaming the patient. And you got to remember that your audience is not the patient who left a negative review. The audience is everybody else who's going to see you. That person already doesn't like you for some reason, and you got to remember there's like a couple percentage points of sociopaths in our world. They have teeth, they bite people, they're going to lose one, they're going to come see you, they're going to be unhappy about something for some reason. And it's just inevitable. And having a proactive system, to get online reviews in the first place is the best defense for this. But when it happens, just keep your cool. Respond very generally. The advice Josh gave about inviting them to contact the office is good. Be very careful not to reveal any personal or patient health identification information that would violate HIPAA. It's not fair. It's not fair that dental patients can, just talk all about you and the things that happen in the office, and your hands are tied a little bit, but it is the law. So just be mindful of that, and you might have other advice you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I look at reviews for businesses almost on a daily basis, right? When I'm talking to practices, and the best responses are the ones that are just very simple, straight to the point, and they don't touch on any PHI or sensitive information. Again, I'm not a HIPAA consultant, so I try not to give specific HIPAA advice that way. But I can agree with Jeff in the sense that I've looked at some reviews that it's very blatantly, you can tell it is not something you would want to respond to or how you'd want to respond. So keep it simple. I think it's simple hey, look, sorry you had this experience. Reach out to us at this number. Have a way for them to reach out to you. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get that next person that's looking at that review, or the next person that's coming across that. You want to get them to feel like you care and that you're willing to reach out and help with some of those situations, right? So that would be, and people can read through it. If you have 50 positive reviews and your next review is a negative one that is just crazy out there, people can read through that too, right? So I wouldn't be too concerned about the patient that comes in that has some crazy experience and they're probably exaggerating a little bit on that review, right? Don't be too concerned about that. Patients are going to look at the context of all the reviews overall.
So what you said there about focusing on the person reading it, not the person who left the review, is dead on. And the best thing that can happen is you get this crazy all caps review that's saying something racist, sexist, or ageist, or something that violates Google's terms of service. Those you might actually be able to get taken down. It's hard to get Google reviews down, but if they've broken the terms of service, you can. So the more crazy a review is, perversely, sometimes the better it is, because it increases the odds you can get it taken down. But what people aren't expecting perfection, but they do expect you to handle problems. And so if somebody sees a negative review that's reasonable, and they see the practice give a reasonable response, well, that's good. I mean, we all expect that, we may have an occasional issue with a business, but what we demand and what we really want is for the business to say, we're going to handle this like human beings. And so resist the urge to slam the patient, even if they were a jerk. The other potential patients reading that are never going to know. All they're going to see is your response. And if you come off as the better person in that exchange, then they're going to feel confident that if they have a problem, it's going to be handled well and you won't yell at them, and that's what you want. Hopefully that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't just yell at people.
Yeah, and we've all seen those crazy ones where you just know, even as a consumer rather than a marketer, where you see the crazy through the review there. So thanks for that advice, guys. So moving on, let's say that you've done all of this, right? So you have the website that's pulling up, you have the great reviews, you have good responses to the reviews, and now the person is going through to your website. Let's talk about ways to make it really easy. So people are looking at a website to find information, to decide if they want to contact you, and then they have to contact you, which is the goal of most websites and all this marketing. So what are some ways that you can, first, let's start with, convince the patient when they're on the site that you're the right dentist for them? Jeff, do you want to start there?
I think video goes a long way. Like I said, this is an emotional purchasing decision, and you're not buying bricks. You care about the person you're going to have a relationship with on an ongoing basis. You're going to see this person every 6 months or perhaps more at the beginning if you have some existing work done. So it's important to try to quash any dental phobias that somebody might have. So video does a great job of emotionally connecting with people, even if you shoot it with your smartphone. We actually send all of our clients little smartphone tripods to try to improve the production value just a little bit. But smartphone cameras are great. You can, and as long as you have decent lighting and it's quiet, you could get a pretty dang good video in there to share with your patients. Showing before and after case examples are helpful too, to show some, proof that you can do this work. It should be your own case, and you should give a pretty decent description of, what happened and why and the services and whatever. But putting all that information together and then putting it on that landing page for those individual services, that will really help Google rank the page, and it'll help convince the patient by giving them all the other kind of, information they need to make a decision. And the last one would be reviews or testimonials. We're checking, social proof from other patients, connection with the dentist, examples of their work. It's a lot of the mental checklist that somebody needs in order to do at least the first stage of case acceptance before they call the office and talk to somebody or contact them through the chat widget or the online booking form.
Yeah. And Jeff, to add to that, I feel like from a consumer perspective, anytime I go to a website that takes longer than a second to load or takes forever to load, that for me is just a big deterrent. So the video is great. I feel like, I don't know if you have any stats behind that, but I feel like I heard one recently that was close to like 50% increase in how Google ranks you. Anyways, it was significant by adding video content to your website. So I would agree with Jeff on that 100%. Videos are critical to helping to increase how you rank there. Also, I think they just help overall when someone does get to your site to convince them to choose you over someone else. They help to personalize it, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any stats behind that at all? I was curious.
Not off the top of my head. I'll have to look it up and get back to you. No, I'm sorry. It's okay.
I was just reading a study. Well, I don't remember the stats exactly, but it was a case study done by some pretty big SEO people in the industry, and they were putting the same videos or putting videos on Vimeo and then YouTube. And Google owns YouTube. And so it's always been pretty known that Google likes Google, and so they're going to like their own products. And they were doing this, and they could not get the Vimeo videos to rank unless there was basically no other content relevant to that search term. They would put websites over video, which if you put it on YouTube, your YouTube videos are usually going to show up higher than the websites. And so they just hate Vimeo and are purposely keeping them down. So also your stuff on YouTube.
Can't believe it. But that's the other thing I was going to say. We do typically recommend people put it on YouTube for that reason. You will have YouTube videos that sometimes rank outrightly in the search results pages. So sometimes you have like 2 or 3 different ways to win. When someone's looking for an individual service, you'll have not only your website, you might also have a before and after case. You might even have a video that's coming from YouTube. So you might have like 3 or 4 spots of real estate if you play your cards right. As far as the speed is concerned, one quick thing you can do if you're a dentist to see how serious your web developer is taking speed is view the source code. And you don't need to interpret the source code, just need to look at the shape of it. Because what you want to see is the same thing you see when you go to google.com and look at their source code. A big blob of like mushed together source code. But they've really optimized the code and smushed it together to be as fast as possible. I know because we did the same thing on our platform, and it saved like 3% for speed. But if you, that's kind of like the old like brown M&Ms trick that Van Halen would do to make sure that their sound set was taken together. They would give this giant list of things that they wanted the stadium or whatever to do, and one of them, which they got criticized for, was they wanted a bowl of M&Ms, but it was either like only brown M&Ms or didn't have any brown M&Ms, and that they didn't even like M&Ms. The whole point of it was to see if they had followed the instructions, because they knew that they weren't going to have to check like the electrical equipment and make sure they weren't going to get electrocuted if there were no brown M&Ms. And so that's a nice canary in the coal mine trick that you can do. View the source code. If it's all smushed together and like on like one line ideally, or just a couple lines, that's a well-optimized site. Somebody's thought about speed. If it's a huge page, and when you look at the source code, and there's all sorts of indenting and formatting, and the whole code is like that, then there's probably some more optimization you can do. And as Josh mentioned, speed's a factor, and every little bit counts.
And if you're like me and look at your source code and have no idea how to do that, reach out to Jeff. We'll leave some contact info here at the end, but yeah, like that's great tip. I would have no idea how to go on my site and look at that. So if you're in the same boat, we'll definitely have some contact info here later that we can drop. But that just my feedback as a consumer. I feel like the speed of a site is critical. how it looks. I don't know if you have any like data on stock images, but I do feel like stay away from stock images and try and get images that have you and your practice on there. I love the sites I go to that have a very personalized site with, offices, with photos, with the staff and with the doctors, that instead of some sort of a stock image pulling up.
It's hard to say with stock images exactly, because the clients that we work with that tend to go with stock images are also on a budget for everything. So they're also not doing SEO or pay-per-click. They're not putting a ton of time into updating their website and adding content. So there's a bunch of multivariate factors that are all kind of working against them. The people that tend to choose stock photography, we'll recommend that only as like a temporary stopgap and something to be fixed later, like a temporary crown. What we really do want is exactly what you said: pictures of the office, pictures of the staff. When you do your office tour, make sure you keep people in the pictures. Usually we see these like office tours and it looks like they're trying to sell the place on Zillow. And it's like, no, we're not. People aren't trying to move in. They want to see what the interaction is going to be like. Again, people are fearful, but if they can, some people are fearful. I went to my dad for 35 years, so I was just afraid if I had bad grades or misbehaved in school. But there are other people who are legitimately scared to go to the dentist and they had a bad experience. And for them to be able to like walk their way through their office or get a tour, it lets them get a little more comfortable with the experience. And seeing people in the photos, people looking at the camera, smiling, don't let the photographer, who often is just, they're photographing real estate, talk you into taking all the people out. It's okay if you might have staff turnover. I'd rather have people in the picture smiling, waving, giving a more accurate representation of what the true experience is going to be like. And even better, make a video. We had one client that had their daughter make a video of like this whole tour through the office. And I think you can also put the kid on payroll. Now they're an actor. And you get a tax break there. I'm not an accountant, by the way, so talk to your CPA. But the video is amazing. The daughter is like in a pediatric practice too. And she's just leading you through the whole practice. Like, oh, this is kind of like an oven and it sterilizes the thing. And look, they've got fluoride, but one tastes like chocolate. And like it almost, and she has this bit at the end of like, it's okay. You don't have to be afraid. And if you're showing that to a mom who's really nervous about like the first visit to the office with the kid, it almost brings a tear to my eye every time I watch that. It's such a magical video. And I'd like to say it was because of our intrepid marketing, but I mean, it was just such great quality. We put that on like a Facebook ad. And how many patients did they get? Sets of families, not just patients, in the first week that ran on Facebook. Annalise, do you remember?
That was a great campaign. I think we got about 20 new appointments booked for that first month that we had it on there.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like having that was just an office tour and probably a tax write-off if dentists are smart, and they are. It just checked all the boxes. So video tour and pictures with people in it. Amen. Please do that.
So if you've got that mom and she's just watched it and she also has the tear in her eye, Josh, what are some ways that we can meet them where they're at with communication? What's the best way to create that user experience for them so that they can contact the office and get that appointment booked?
Yeah, obviously you want to have your contact info somewhere on the page, right? Have it in an easy to find spot. I've been on multiple sites where it's hard to find out how to reach out to the office. That's not what you want. The other thing, and I'm going to go to Podium's web chat, but just web chat in general, having an easy way when someone's on your site, when they're scrolling down, when they've just watched that video, the next thing they want to do is reach out to you, right? So have something that's going to stay with them on the page no matter where they're at, that they can quickly send you a message through, text you through. With Podium's web chat, we've chosen to do it with text. We know that it's quick and easy. The thing that I love about text as well is when they go and send in their info to you, you now have a textable phone number. You have a phone number you can call as well. So it's a lead for your business, for your practice. And so that's been a critical piece for our businesses is, the reviews help get you to this website. They help get you to that point. The NAP, everything else we've talked about helps get you to the site. If you can have some good video content, if you can have a really, really good looking site, that web chat's going to be the next key to help getting them into the practice and setting up an appointment with you. And so if you're missing that, if you don't have a good way for them to reach out to you, I call it a leaky bucket. There's potential where someone's on your site, but they're not completing that journey to buy, to purchase. I don't know if anyone else has done this, but there's chats out there where you start chatting. It feels very generic. It doesn't feel like it's coming from a real person. You leave the page, you try to come back, and now the whole chat starts over again, right? Avoid those. You don't want to have a chat where it's inconvenient for the patient. You want to have something that's very quick and easy for them to use.
Yeah, having integrated chat, especially staffed by the practice, is a great feature. The convenience of SMS is a win. Because most practices will have a phone number on there, and most will also have an email or a way to contact the office. The only thing I'd add to that is make sure you have a contact form. Some people are not necessarily on their own computer. They may be at work. They may not have access to their own email. That's less and less frequent, but it still happens, or they may be on a friend's computer. Just give them a way to put that into a form. Save your email from a little spam. And having the real-time functionality of chat is useful. You get instant gratification and feedback. I remember getting some stats from an online booking company a few years ago that said that for every time you get a contact form or an appointment request, you get another 1.5 of those out there for that patient on other websites. So they may not only be talking to you. So having a chat feature where you can instantaneously get back to them, you might win the race. And sometimes half of winning is just showing up. And if you get there first, you might win by default.
And with that online booking and all of that, I know that especially with millennials and zennials and everyone wanting that convenience and doing more and more things online, what are some other options that you can use? I know some sites are integrating online payment plans, or they're doing teledentistry. What do you guys think is important for those users as alternative ways of conducting business with your practice? Josh,
Yeah,
I think you guys do some payments.
Yeah. And so, I mean, especially right now with COVID, and which is the change we've seen over the last few months with everything, having options that are where patients can go in and do things from your website or from a mobile phone is key and is critical. They're not going to have the same ability to do that when they're in the office. And even, I mean, I go to the grocery store and everything they're trying to get you to do like either Apple Pay or touchless payments, or, the options. And I don't want to just pay like I used to either, because as a patient or as a consumer, I'm trying to stay safe and secure. And so, yes, Podium's launched a couple things recently. One of those is payments, and payments gives you the ability to now collect a payment directly via text. So that text message that they can initiate with you through your website, you can also through your Podium account go in and send a text to that patient after they've come in, become a patient with their balance, and they can make a payment all from that same text message thread. And so we'll assign a phone number to you. And in a lot of cases, we can actually use your phone number. If you're on a landline, we can tap into your phone number. So the patient now has that number saved that they can call you on, text you on, make payments on. I mean, it's a really cool way of just making it simple and easy for your patients to connect. Video chat, I'll bring that up as well, because that's another thing that we've recently launched with the need for telemed right now, and just people being able to communicate with you in an easy way. I don't know if anyone else the amount of Zoom conferences I'm doing right now is increasing X, right? I feel like everyone else is probably in the same boat, but majority, I would say 9 out of 10 people have probably done Zoom now, right? And if you haven't, I don't know where you've been, but
New Zealand.
being able to do some sort of a video chat is going to be key for patients as well, right? There are patients that they're going to want to see you face-to-face, talk to you face-to-face. So Podium's done, we actually have the ability to start a video chat from a text within our platform as well.
That's pretty cool.
These are all nice. Yeah, these are all nice features. The more options you have for connecting with patients, some people prefer certain things. The more options you give them, the more ways to win.
Yeah.
I did the text payment thing with my vet, and it was really nice. You just get that text. I was able to scan my credit card there and then just like verify it, and it took care of the invoice, and then they gave me my dog back. So it's really easy and really simple. So that's a pretty cool feature that I've seen becoming more and more popular too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and let's say that you've got them all the way through. They've had their first appointment. They've been able to contact the office easily. They've paid. What are some tips to keep those people coming back? Because I know, especially in today's society, it's so easy to forget things, get distracted. You see something new, you get a deal somewhere else. But how do you keep those patients loyal to your practice?
Yeah, patients are looking for convenient offices. So I really think a lot of those features, like the way they can make a payment, is convenient for them. Text is super convenient. So follow up with them via text. Maybe it's a feedback text that you're sending them. Maybe it's, just keeping in touch via text message. But those are all things that I know I look for in a business when I want to work with them. I'll actually give you an example. It's kind of a funny example, but on Father's Day, I really wanted some chocolate cake. I went online, did a quick search.
I thought you were going to say going to the dentist. I'm like, no.
Right? So, I'm doing a search. My wife's like, what do you want for dessert? It's Father's Day. I was like, let's get some chocolate cake. So go on, do a search, best chocolate cake in my area. I go on their site. They have a little chat widget. I start chatting with them. No response. Never got a response. And so I ended up doing something else. But it's just a matter of making sure it's convenient for people, right? If you want to have customers that will continue to come back to you, patients that will continue to come back to you, make it convenient for them. Because I can tell you, there's people searching for dentists every single day in the area. And if you're not convenient, if it's not easy, chances are they're going to go find someone that is.
Yeah, you don't want to lose a patient over something that trivial. And you spend all this time becoming a great dentist and honing your skill. And patients will look past that sometimes if something annoys them or becomes too difficult, and somebody else who's not as good of a dentist makes it a little easier. So don't lose the game on just like a technical foul. Just those are rough edges that can be smoothed out and can be done pretty easily.
And one thing I started a new dentist recently, and he's a startup practice there. And I had interacted with his Facebook, just liked something. And I have a different last name on Facebook than my real one, so it doesn't match up completely. But at least my first name it stands out a little bit more than most. And when I was chatting with him, he asked like, oh, didn't you like my video on Facebook the other day? And I thought it was like a nice little way to show that he's also paying attention to the ways that I'm interacting with the practice. And now when I see him post on Facebook, I'm more inclined to like his posts. And like, I felt like a little bit more of that connection. And as a marketer, I usually see through a lot of those types of things and I'm like, whatever. But I thought that was like such a nice little way for him to just, thank me without thanking me for like doing some sort of just little quick posts and things and stuff on Facebook. And it just made me feel like he was actually taking the time to care and made me feel a little bit more connected to him. So with that, I think those are all the questions I wanted to ask today. Do you guys have any last words of wisdom or one thing that you wish you could share with dentists? Or maybe not?
I'll chime in real quick. Key takeaways, if you're going to take away anything, videos is key. We talked about that, right? Make sure your NAP, your NAP is updated. That can take a couple minutes. And if you have questions on this, we'll leave contact info to reach out to us. But like those little things, the source code piece, again, I have no idea how to find that. So reach out to Jeff if you have questions on how to find that, because that sounds, like speed for me as a consumer is critical on how fast stuff loads. And then make it easy for patients to reach out to you. You've got to have an easy, quick, convenient way. Patients want to be able to text nowadays. That's their preferred method of reaching out. We're all busy. We can't always be on a phone call or answer calls, but I can tell you we're always able to text. Like the average response rate for text is 1 to 2 minutes. It's super quick. And so that'd be my kind of takeaways from today.
Yeah, having a variety of ways to contact the office to meet the needs of different age groups or just personal preferences is key. And making sure that your website is unique, that it has images of you and your staff, it has video content that Josh just mentioned as examples of your work. And it looks great on all devices, mobile, tablet, desktop. Don't just focus on one. Make sure that you're thinking about everyone's experience, whether they're older, younger, hip, on a computer, mobile phone, whatever. Make sure that everybody's going to have a great experience because you want to win all those people as patients.
Great. Thank you both. And so contact information. So Josh, you guys are podium.com. And then do you have an email address that they can reach out to you or to your company?
Yeah, if you go to podium.com, we'll have our contact info on there. We have a way for you to chat with us through there. I mean, it's really simple and easy. We even have a starter link at the top. So we have a package that we've recently launched to get you started for free if you want to try out some of the features and see how it works for you. So definitely go check out podium.com, and then all of our contact info is on there.
Perfect. And Jeff, the website's greatdentalwebsites.com, and the best way to contact you is?
Jeff at greatdentalwebsites.com.
Great. All right. We'll also send that in the follow-up email that you guys will be receiving in about 24 hours. So if you guys have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to either company. And Jeff and Josh, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you guys took something away from this, and we hope that you guys are all able to have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend.
Thanks again.
See you later.